And I will work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gauging on food.
We've had enough of you people price gauging out there. You better cut out that price gauging because the President of the United States is on your case. And her name is Kamala Harris. She's a WOC. She will have no gauging. What is price gauging again? She got a little cat scratch fever. Speaking of which, I assume there will be an outbreak of monkeypox in Chicago later this week. You know, there was an outbreak in Africa last week, and the World Health Organization warned us that monkeypox was making a big comeback. Keep your eyes peeled for more outbreaks of the monkeypox. Bad timing with the Democrats all gathering in a scrum like that in Chicago. You know how they love to pile on each other. Monkeypox on a tear. You know it's going to show up in Chicago. Where else would it go? It would go to Chicago. Well, happy Monday to you and welcome. Today is the first day of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois. Chicago's bracing for all kinds of violence. They love violence, the Democrats do. Mob, street, political violence is their specialty. They enjoy that very much. And the news media is very excited. They love Joe Biden. They give him a tongue bath every day. But they've ganged up and shaved their tongues all over again to give Kamala an all-new level of tongue bath. She is the most wonderful person ever. It's like the Manchurian Candidate. And they've ginned up a phony baloney narrative for Kamala Harris. They do a lot of that. They did that with Joe Biden for years, and they do that with Dr. Jill Biden. Dr. Jill Biden. She really loves her Secret Service details. She really does. And it's good to be a Democrat because these things might be issues if you weren't a Democrat. But the rhetoric today is they're passing the torch, which I think is interesting since they're the party of the white knights of the Ku Klux Klan, burning churches and burning all kinds of stuff down. They torched a lot of things, the Democrat Party, and they're still torching. They're burning police stations and courthouses just a matter of months ago, probably days ago. Although yesterday in Chicago, there was some amusing Democrat Party stuff. They had the LGBTQs out parading in the streets for Hamas. They love Hamas. And I think that they should start throwing themselves off of rooftops if they really wanted to show their solidarity. The LGBTQ-Ds, that'd be Democrats, shouldn't D be in there? I think D should be in there. It's like being an ally or something. But they should start throwing themselves off of the rooftops of high buildings in Chicago to show that they really care. If they really cared, they would show their solidarity and that they really mean it. We've already got a lot of suicide attacks and at least 4 self-immolations by Democrats in the last couple of years in the United States because they really care. They really do care. But the marchers, and they invaded the Democrat Party's welcome event at Navy Pier in Chicago and stormed the stage and yelled a bunch of factually incorrect things, saying they're such a gang of ignorant sluts. I got to tell you, what amazing things. There have been 150,000 killed in Gaza. No, there have been 40,000 killed. But you can go ahead and say it's 150,000. Been 150,000 killed in Chicago. You should be chanting that, you bunch of expletives deleted. Pretty amazing stuff. But they're passing the torch, and I thought it was funny because everybody in the media is saying that the party issued language, passing the torch. They're all passing the torch. And the Democrat Party has a long history of passing the torch and burning stuff to the ground. They are the party of the Klan and of Jim Crow and of lynching, and that's why they've got the black vote locked up. I guess that makes sense. But the Washington Post, they deviated from the passing the torch norm, and their headline, their lead story, upper right-hand corner of the front page. It looks like a newspaper, but it's not. Owned by Jeff Bezos, front man for the international left. And the headline is, Biden prepares to pass the baton. I know you were thinking to pass gas. You're thinking maybe Joe Biden's going to go up on stage and he might pass gas. He might do something like that. No, it says here that he's not going to pass the torch. He's going to pass the baton. I think the Washington Post, they recognize that it sounds too much like them rioting and burning things when you say pass the torch over and over again. We'll speak on first day of convention. That's today, but they don't say that in the newspaper here. Expected to set tone for Harris campaign ahead. He's going to set the tone. So it's going to be garbled and babbling and rambling and incoherent, and he'll screw up his reading of the teleprompter. And then the news media will mop it up for him because that's what the filthies do in the news media. So Matt Visor of the Democrat Party typed up the story on the front page of the Washington Post. President Joe Biden, through a lifetime of triumph and tragedy. Where's the triumph part? I guess he did become president of the United States, kind of amazingly, more votes than anybody in history, and he never left his basement. And that's perfectly natural. We should expect that from now on. That's not a thing. Has learned, in his words, to become a respecter of fate. He's a respecter. He's a respecter of fate. 4 years ago at this time, he felt like his biography had finally aligned with history. Listen to this, like he's Caesar or something. Honestly, where's Tara Reid? He sexually assaulted her, pinned her against the wall in the Senate when she worked in his office there. The Washington Post is okay with that, just like they were with Jeffrey Epstein and they are with Harvey Weinstein and with Bill Clinton, for that matter. He's going to be at the convention. And you saw Bill Clinton speaking at the convention. That's when you knew that the convention has an internship program. They've got an internship program. Otherwise, Bill wouldn't be there. The Washington Post continues. He was the right man at the right time in the right place. Yeah, I guess you could say that. So was Hitler. I'll just throw Hitler in there because they love the Hitler references. Now, as his party gathers to rally around a new nominee, one that hasn't received a single vote and was undemocratically catapulted to the stratosphere after Joe Biden, who got more than 14.5 million votes from Democrats across the country in the primaries, was kicked to the curb by the party apparatchiks in the back room, which is no longer smoke-filled. Then it was okay. So now as his party gathers to rally around a new nominee, he is no longer fate's favorite. He's no longer fate's favorite. He was fate's favorite before. No, he was Crook's favorite. And Crooks is the guy that shot President Trump in the head, too, just by the way. He will speak on the first day of the convention. See, that's today, but they don't say that. It's like a story that they wrote last week or something. He will speak on the first day of the convention, the Democratic National Convention, on Monday, and then he plans to leave for a family vacation. Because, you know, one thing you got to say about Joe Biden, he hasn't had enough vacation time, has he? What with his brain damage and everything like that. So leaves on a family vacation. They don't say it, but it's in California. Listen to this, as a jubilant convention goes on without him. How do they know the convention is jubilant? It's in the future. They're reporting on the future. It's like Minority Report over here. Except we know that Joe Biden, the people running the party, are not minorities, but that's okay. Never mind that. By the time the balloon drops on Thursday night, before a rapturous crowd, they know it's jubilant and they know that it's rapturous. It's jubilant, it's rapturous crowd. They can predict, they can project into the future. They know what it's going to be. They can report on the future at the Washington Post, and they know exactly. It's not going to be a riot, as everyone knows it's going to be, but never mind that. But by the time the balloons drop on Thursday night before a rapturous crowd in Chicago, he will be long gone. He's already long gone. He's been long gone for years. You guys just haven't been reporting on it. And while he had hoped this week would be about rallying the party around his vision, he's got a vision for a second term, he has now reoriented himself around bolstering Vice President Kamala Harris, a recognition that his legacy is deeply tied to whatever she can win in November. See, that's that Washington Post they got their shoulder behind it. Isn't it amazing? It's good to be a Democrat, isn't it? Amazing stuff. Now, we've got a lot to get to, a lot of stuff having to do with the Democratic Convention in Chicago and gays for Hamas marching by the thousands and thousands in Chicago. Already a bit of hostility attacking the DNC opener. I don't know if there have been any killings related to the convention yet, but it's only day one. It hasn't really started. It really starts today. So we'll fire the starter's pistol. We'll try to use a blank round on the starter's pistol. But it'll get going. Also, there's more because that's not all there is. Our favorite Washington, D.C. city councilman, Trayon White, who he hates the Jews. Boy, does he hate the Jews. Trayon White is the one that thinks that the Rothschilds, the Jewish banking family, control the weather and make it snow in Washington, D.C. Trayon White was arrested yesterday afternoon in Washington, D.C. Well, is he a delegate to the convention, Michael? Isn't he supposed to be in Chicago today? Because I think he's a delegate. Trayon White, Democrat, obviously, city councilman in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., who believes that the Jews control the weather and they're using it to control cities. See, and that's okay when you're a Democrat. That's not crazy talk or anything. You're just fine when it comes to that. Trayon White was arrested yesterday afternoon by the FBI, and they're keeping it a secret as to why. They're not telling anybody. And according to the Washington Post, his lawyer has not been given access to him. So he's like getting the Republican treatment over here, it sounds like. Pretty amazing. Deutschland, FBI. I know it doesn't rhyme with Uber alles, but I just wanted to throw that in. Yeah, so Trayon White, pretty amazing stuff. Yes, sir. Arrested by the FBI. We're keeping our ear to the ground on that. We expect that during the course of our big radio broadcast today for 3 hours, we'll find out why Democrat, racist, anti-Semite Trayon White was arrested by the FBI yesterday in a raid, and he's held in prison overnight, they said, and the charges would be announced this morning. So we're going to be on all morning. We'll tell you what Trayon White's crimes are. We were gambling last night. We didn't bet any actual money, but we were just betting. Is it going to be, what is it going to be? Financial, drug related, sexual in nature? Because the Democrats are they all rapists, Michael? They love rape, that's for sure. It's like Blazing Saddles, pretty amazing stuff. They love that. And they love bringing in criminals from Latin American countries and from all over the world, really. We had, who was the guy? Senegal last week and Haiti, rapist murderers. They're bringing them in by the plane load. It's pretty amazing stuff. Yes, it is. In the meantime, Kamala Harris is promising $25,000 to new home buyers, right? And she, what did she say, Michael? That she wanted to stop gauging. She wanted to stop price gauging because she says that stores like grocery stores, are charging too much. And if only the government held a gun to their heads, she could make stores charge less for things because she has the brain of a turnip, and turnips don't have brains. That is pretty amazing stuff. We've got that going. Yeah, so the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, DNC is also a Democratic National Committee, and I don't like that using the same abbreviation for two different things. We're doing more and more of that now. It's the garbled world of government speak that has been inflicted upon all of us. Also in Chicago, it's so dangerous there because of Democrats that the Democrats coming in for the convention were told to book their hotel rooms under fake names because you don't want people to know who you are. And they're giving out free abortions and free vasectomies. It's almost as if they don't like people. Free abortions. I'm not making this up. You may know this already. They're giving out free abortions and free vasectomies because they want fewer people in Western civilization. That'll be good for the jihad. Amazing stuff. Chicago is, of course, a disaster because of Democrats. The state of Illinois, a disaster because of Democrats. Even a New York Times columnist had to weigh in and say, I think the Democrat Party's gone kind of crazy. Tens of thousands, they say 100,000 protesters in Chicago. Can arson be far behind? I sure don't think so. We've got Kamala stories, Israel, because Antony Blinken's over there not getting the job done in the Middle East as usual. And then there's Tim Walz. He loves communist China and not America. We are at 888-630-9625. Well, I have very sad news to report. Bill Clinton turned 78 today. Bill Clinton turned 78 years old today. And you know what Hillary gives him every year on his birthday? 5 minutes of silence. 5 minutes of silence. It's pretty good. And also, Phil Donahue, the, Chicago-based talk show host, married to Marlo Thomas, that girl and all that stuff, and daughter of Danny Thomas. Phil Donahue has died at the age of 88 years old for Phil Donahue. Died at home surrounded by Marlo Thomas and the dog and the family and grandkids and things like that. Phil Donahue, 88 years old, passed away. Just learned that moments ago. And Bill Clinton keeps going, 78 years old. 5 minutes of silence is what he's looking forward to today. Every year on his birthday. It's his birthday gift. That's what he's got going for himself. Remarkable things. So we've got a lot of news and a lot of moving parts today. While we're on the air today, a lot of things are going to be happening because the Democrats are out of their cages and madness is on the loose. Extraordinary stuff. Also, another giant story today. The House Republicans released a 292-page report on the corruption of Joe Biden and the Biden family. And it turns out, surprise, surprise, they're corrupt as hell. And they say, the Republicans say, that he has committed, Joe Biden, impeachable offenses. Of course, he's, got one foot out the door and he doesn't even know it himself. But the Oversight Committee, working with the Judiciary Committee, working with the Ways and Means Committee in the House of Representatives, came out with their 292-page report. Interesting timing. And it turns out that the Biden family has taken in, and their cronies have taken in, since 2014, that's 10 years now, $27 million from foreign interests. Now, the Democrats have gathered in Chicago for the Democratic National Convention, and what's the name of that movie? There Will Be Blood. I think it's There Will Be Blood. I like to keep my ear to the ground on a variety of matters, and yesterday the headline from ABC Chicago was Chicago shootings, : they love their colons. At least 10 shot, 3 fatally in weekend gun violence. That was yesterday, and that's not good. And then hours after that, just hours later, blood-soaked Chicago prepares to host the DNC after 11 people shot over the weekend. See, it was 10 shot over here, then 11 shot there. Then the New York Post, 15 hours ago, 20 shot, 4 fatally in bloody Chicago weekend ahead of DNC. 20 people shot. But wait a minute, because hours after that, ABC Chicago again, Chicago shootings, at least 23 shot, 5 fatally in weekend gun violence across the city. But wait, because they updated it again. Chicago shootings, : boy, they really do. At least 30 shot, 30 people shot. Let's check the crime stats in Fallujah over the weekend, because I think Fallujah is comparatively mellow in Iraq. At least 30 shot, 5 fatally in weekend gun violence across the city of Chicago. And that's perfectly normal. That is not news. That would not make news under any circumstance on a normal weekend. It's just that the Democrats are gathering there now. So the news media wants to pay a little bit of attention to it because they might have friends there. So honestly, wah, wah, wah. The numbers just go. And I'll bet that as this show goes on this morning, between now and noon, the numbers will increase again because there are Democrats there in large numbers. Let's be honest. Completely crazy. Also, you know that there are a lot of businesses that have been boarded up in Chicago because the Democrats are coming in town, and everybody knows that they're violent. They're a violent mob of lunatics. And Stephen Miller has an X account that's similar to Twitter. And he posted this, and this is true. I've got photographs of it too. This happens now. The threats of mob violence happen so frequently in Chicago now that there is actually a company that has branded themselves as the original board-up service, not like those cheap knockoffs. And it is kind of amazing that they're boarding up businesses, the glass storefronts and doors and businesses, apartment buildings, the Garland building in this particular photo. And it's no sense of irony. Spray painted on the particle board that's used to cover up the windows. They spray painted with a stencil, the original Chicago Board Up Services, with their phone number right there in case you want to call them. And you can call them and they'll come and board up your business because, you know, the Democrats are in town. And the company was created to board up storefronts and apartment buildings and condos and anybody that doesn't want to be sacked and looted and plundered by the violent mobs of Democrats who are like Visigoths in the Middle Ages. These people are quite amazing. So this company, Chicago Board Up Services, very busy, making a killing this week for sure. Chicago businesses are boarding up due to reports of hundreds of thousands of pro-Palestinian, that is to say, Jew haters, pro-Palestinian demonstrators coming for the DNC. Yeah, they're coming for the DNC. The businesses already predicted the level of destruction the demonstrators would cause, yet the city still issued permits to these violent groups. And I was just amazing stuff. The what has become normal, right? Never forget January 6th, but forget the 550 other riots that all Democrats, 100% Democrats, these Democrat Party riots that caused literally billions in property damage and all that good stuff. Aren't they amazing? Now, this morning I was watching the television. I was watching the news. And on the news, they had the march in Chicago yesterday and this giant banner leading the march of thousands of mentally ill people. Thousands of mentally ill people. And they've got Palestinian flags and they've got signs. And it's the lead banner, like 20 feet across and 4 feet high, is feminists and LGBTQ plus people for a free Palestine. You would want them to be free to throw you off of a rooftop to your death, which is what they would do to you for being a member of the LGBTQ plus community. Is that a gated community? Because you should have some kind of barricades there, I'm telling you right now. And the ironies of these people, feminists and LGBTQ plus people for a free Palestine, these are the most anti-gay people on the face of the earth. They're worse than Saudi Arabia. They're worse than the Taliban. And these gay liberal idiots are out in the streets in the thousands, by the thousands, and they have big banners made up, professional banners that cost a lot of money to make up. And then people make their own signs too. And there's a woman, I think, hard to say, with a shaved head, and she's got a Saudi headdress wrapped around her arm because she supports Saudi Arabia because she's brain damaged. And she's got a surgical mask on because of the Wuhan that came out of China. She's carrying a sign that says, "Get abortion pills by mail today." Get abortion pills. No one's going to impregnate you. Let's start with that. Secondly, you can already do that. And third, you're a lot of help. It's honestly, it's almost as if they don't like human life. Again, they're giving out free abortions at the Democratic National Convention and free vasectomies. That assumes that someone there has gonads, I guess, and that, of course, they don't really know what these things are, do they? Reproductive freedom for all, says was one angry homemade sign. What does that have to do with Palestine? That's they sacrificed their children on the altar of their death cult. Pretty amazing stuff. So they end the genocide in Gaza. There is no genocide in Gaza. They are the genocidal army that wishes to commit genocide. You are literally supporting genocide. Genocide, the genocide of the Jewish people. Now we've got audio from some of the protests there yesterday. And they've got their "End U.S. Aid to Israel" signs, big red signs. And you can see on the bottom, it's printed right there, printed by the Chicago Democratic Socialists of America. And the sign is red. It's the Red-Green Alliance. The jihadis who would kill all the Jews have married up with the left who would kill all the Jews. Speaking of which, let's go to Trayon White, because we haven't gone to Trayon White yet. And he was, as it turns out, ahead of the curve with the Democrats when it comes to hating the Jews and blaming the Jews for bad weather and stuff. And I love this. They're at a Palestinian protest, and they've got signs. "Women say health care, not warfare. Code pink." They got the code pink thing there. Isn't that amazing? Health care, not warfare. That makes a lot of sense. But you guys, the Democrats, you had presidents on duty for the Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War. You guys screwed up communication between our foreign intelligence gathering and domestic intelligence, leading to the September 11th attacks, which led to the war that will never end. And Joe Biden has got us up to our eyeballs into two never-ending wars, one in Europe, one in the Middle East. The Asian war is coming thanks to Joe Biden. Isn't that amazing? Just amazing stuff. So let's go to Trayon White, because Trayon White, who was arrested by the FBI yesterday, and we don't know why, because it's a secret, because we live in a communist country now. So when the FBI arrests city councilmen from the nation's capital, they keep it a secret. Why? Right? Because why would they tell us? What, do we work for you or something? Crazy. So here's Trayon White. He was driving in his own automobile on the, where is he, southwest, southeast, little expressway thing, little freeway. Doesn't go on for long. And he whipped out his phone and made a video of himself because snowflakes started falling in like January or February, because it's wintertime and it snows here in the Mid-Atlantic region. And Trayon White, he's onto it. He knows why it's snowing. It's the Jews, and more specifically, it's the Rothschild family.
Man, it's just started snowing out of nowhere this morning, man.
Banking family.
Y'all better pay attention to this climate control, man. This climate manipulation. And D.C. keep talking about we're a resilient city. And that's a model based off the Rothschilds controlling the climate to create natural disasters. They can pay for it and own the cities, man. Be careful.
That's right. They can, he can do all that stuff, and it's the Rothschilds. And he made that video of himself, and then he posted the video because he wanted everybody to see how smart he is and articulate, too. He is, what was it Joe Biden said about Barack Obama? He's the first mainstream black guy to come along who's articulate and who's bright and who's clean. First mainstream black guy to come along who's clean, and first guy to come along who's articulate. That's what Joe Biden said about Barack Obama.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and and clean and a nice-looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
Yeah.
That's a storybook, man. Let me just say that Trayon White is not the second mainstream black guy to come along who's articulated, bright, and clean. He is very severely demented, brain damaged, crazy, racist, anti-Semite, and that's okay. When this video was posted, he was shamed into going to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, and he actually showed up for a little while. But while they were taking him on a tour of the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., he disappeared. And the people giving him a tour with the Holocaust Museum said, "Hey, where'd Trayon White go?" And he had just left. He just said, "I had enough of this stuff." And he was out front texting. They found him out front texting. And he told them what's what, and he walked away because the Jews won't tell him what to do.
At the time, I didn't know saying anything as relates to the Rothschilds meant all Jews. And so this has definitely been a learning experience for me.
It's been a learning experience for him. Now let's start with the English language. Let's go back to the beginning and let's use our words. Let's pronounce our words. Let's try these. City councilman in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, the United States of America, the center of Western civilization. Isn't that amazing? And again, he was arrested yesterday by the FBI, but the FBI is not telling us why. It's a secret. Are we waiting? I think we're waiting for some kind of an announcement, but it may never come. They may just build a gulag and put him in the gulag because the left is here and they've taken over institutions. Isn't that amazing? All right, now let's go to the crazy people in Chicago from yesterday because, yesterday they had a big march and thousands of Jew-hating Democrats who love Hamas, and they say they love the Palestinians. That's like saying you love the Germans during the peak of World War II. No, I don't love Nazi Germany. I just love Germany. Well, Germany is savaging, the Western world. And you're with Germany now? Yes, I'm just with Germany, not with the Nazis. You're just with the Palestinians, but not with Hamas? Aren't they holding hostages right now, the 100 and some odd hostages? And nobody's counting on them coming back alive. They must have a big freezer there where they've thrown all the hostages' bodies because it would be rude. They wouldn't want to sit around with the bodies and everything like that. Or maybe they would because amazing stuff, just amazing. But yesterday in Chicago, Illinois, they had a big march, and it was LGBTQ for Palestine, which makes no sense at all. That's like Jews for Nazi Germany. That's black people for slavery, and gay people for Palestinians who literally would throw you to your death off of a rooftop given half a chance to do so. Isn't that amazing? Oh, and by the way, this is no sense of irony, these people. They have built a wall around the convention site, but I thought walls don't work. They told me that walls don't work. Along the border, the southern border, walls do not work. That's what they told me. But they've built a giant wall around the convention site at the United Center, right, which is a big indoor arena, of course. And the Democrats, who will tell you again and again that walls don't work, they built one around the Capitol when they were going in there. For them, they work. When it comes to protecting them, they work. So they built a giant wall, a giant fence, and you may remember it well. Because the local CBS News reporter Asal Razai reported on the story.
If you look behind me over my shoulder, you'll notice those fences and snowplows in place. We've actually watched all morning as they have started to bring in more metal fencing, more barricades, and these snowplows have been kind of navigating around those barricades and getting into place around the UC. Take a look at some of this video we got earlier this morning. You can see a lot of cars have been turning around already as they're met with these new closures that have been set in place overnight and early this morning.
Cars are being turned around because new measures have been set in place, and they're erecting a wall. And no, I didn't call her a name. No, her name is Asal. Asal, it's A-S-A-L. That's how you got to pronounce it that way, because otherwise it would be culturally insensitive, like Kamala, and you don't want that. Pretty amazing stuff. I am telling you. Yeah. These people are not the brightest people in the world, but they've put this wall up. You may remember this big wall. Tim Walz, who is now Kamala Harris's running mate, was asked about securing our border, and he mocked and ridiculed the idea of securing our border with this.
He talks about this wall. I always say, let me know how high it is. If it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in the 30-foot ladder factory. That's not how you stop this.
It's the 30-foot ladder factory. It's the 30-foot ladder factory. Also, the Democrat Party released their Democrat Party platform in Chicago, and apparently they didn't update it because their party platform still calls for the re-election of Joe Biden to a second term in the White House. These people shouldn't be allowed to run a lemonade stand. These people, whatever you give them, they're going to run it into the side of a mountain. That's right. The party platform is out. Praise Allah. And just amazing stuff. Calls for the re-election of Joe Biden because nobody's running this. It's just anarchy. It's chaos. But at least they're bringing in, old Soviet techniques for managing the economy. How many were shot in Chicago over the weekend? We're going to have to check to see if there are any more updates. All right, I'm going to have to confess, we've been having some issues with our call screening program this morning. And while the great Jasmine is here and at the helm, at the controls, we've got some technical difficulties. Is that the correct terminology? Technical difficulties that we're sorting out here. But the Chicago convention begins today, and we will have that sorted out just as we get past the news. The Democrats say that the convention, 4 days of the convention, Kamala, and they're not coronating Joe Biden again, even though that's what their platform says. They're just trying to fool him again. They've brought in influencers. It's going to be about the vibe.